Welcome to the overview part 2 presentation of AI in Healthcare, Foundations and Trends of AI Governance. I'm your host, Kelly McClendon. Please see our introductory AI Governance Foundations and Trends video for biographical information and more details about this presentation series. A link to that introductory presentation will be posted in this video's description as soon as I put them online. This presentation, again, is an overview of a larger presentation, but more comprehensive in a short form, and it's part 2 of 3 in the AI Foundations and Trends series. This overview is shorter than the larger, more detailed content that I have in PowerPoint decks that I'll be using to create more in-depth videos on all of these different topics. And you may see these slides again within their component sections. Today we're going to talk about types of AI in healthcare, a little bit of preview on AI governance and AI privacy and HIPAA. Those are our topics for this presentation. Types of AI in healthcare. What functions can be performed by generative AI in healthcare? AI has several different types or flavors, if you will, and types is an in-specific description, but I think you get the point. So within generative AI, which creates things, so if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you see a picture of me talking to the Microsoft Copilot AI I use here on my work machine. And I asked it to give me a picture of Pittsburgh in the wintertime. I happen to think that Pittsburgh with its bridges and rivers is a pretty compelling image, and so I had AI create me one. DALL-E within Copilot created this. You may also see DALL-E, I think, in ChatGPT. But anyway, it's an image generator. So what I have in these floating boxes here over to the right is that we've got different things going on that AI can do within the generative AI kind of spectrum. You can monitor AIs, you can use them to predict things, you can use them to make decisions, you can generate text, you can generate computer code, and you can generate images such as the one that I did here. Now, the Biden executive order, who knows whether that will be replaced with something else, but defines generative AI as the class of AI models that emulate the structure and characteristics of input data, what you put into it, to generate a derived synthetic output, meaning I input asking about Pittsburgh in the wintertime and it output a picture. This can include images, videos, audio, text, and other digital content. That's what it puts out. You typically input through the use of a prompt, which is what you see again over on the left. Drilling deeper into types of AI in healthcare, a crucial gap that remains in AI governance is the absence of a well-defined framework for classifying healthcare AI systems based on their risk and potential benefits. So really, we don't have a good way of saying what are the different types of AI systems in healthcare, but we can make some generalizations, so let's do that. Back office administrative type systems. So that would be like revenue cycle management, so managing, say, denials or the billing process. Prior authorization and utilization review is a back office administrative type AI application. they're not clinical, and they're considered either operational or administrative. I didn't know which word to choose. They either run your operations or it's part of your administrative suite of duties that your organization has to perform. So that's one class or type of AI. Another is clinical process automation. So that's automating clinical processes like virtual scribes, EHR, electronic health record automation, EHR summation, making summaries. That seems like a good application for AI. Medical coding support, and it deals with clinical risk that's involved there. So clinical process automation is a different animal than back office administration type AIs. Patient enablement, that's an AI that helps patients do something like enables education on different conditions, medications, result, collecting patient information. It's knowing what to ask and asking and then notating and doing something maybe with the information that it gets back from the patients. It's typically a kind of a clinical app, but depends on the context it's used. If we're trying to evaluate what risk does it contain. And then research enablement, AI tools to assist in medical, drug, or other healthcare type research, clinical research typically. So there's a class of AIs for that as well. I'm not going to really concentrate too much on that in my presentations because I'm not an expert on research. Artificial intelligence tools for documentation and other non-clinical work in healthcare. AI is a mix of human and technical solutions. We know that. We have said that earlier. AI tools generally use advanced computing techniques to make predictions, to make recommendations or decisions, typically for patient care, or maybe it's something for the organization or the user. Clinical care supporting tools, that's there's some different types, major types of tools. Again, as we've been speaking, no real hard and fast way to group them together. So I said clinical care supporting tools, some examples of that are like decision support for diagnosis and treatment, meaning that the AI helps support this diagnosis and treatment process, remote monitoring, embedded medical devices, predictive analysis for high risk, like it takes in a lot of data and then thinks here's the risk factors and their levels of risk. Clinical documentation, another area, radiology and digital imaging diagnosis and predictive improvement. So basically being able to take a lot of data and then look through it and perhaps spot lung cancer or something else. And it uses radiology and digital images, and now even expanded beyond that, lots of other data inside the electronic health records. Chart summarization and reports. And I say it's good since indexing and reporting is still not solved really for complex EHRs. I don't try not to rant too much here on this educational series, but since my background is in fact record management and medical record management in detail, I have never thought that electronic health records were at all good in indexing what's inside of them or summarizing what's inside of them. And I think that AI can help with that and just make it better. And that would be good. And the more data you have, the harder it is to organize and understand not only what's within the record, but how it impacts each other. I think AI can help with that. So I think that's a very good line of applications for AI to support. Patient record query support. So just finding patient records, the whole MPI process, I think can be helped with AI. Completing documentation, I think that can also be helped with AI. Now, some examples of payment and revenue cycle tools. Use AI to support both payers and providers in creating and processing claims. Clearly, that's a labor-intensive, repetitive process, and AI may be able to help. Conducting analytics to support the billing and collections. Further slicing and dicing of data and information out of the billing and collections and revenue cycle world. That's what a lot of systems do. Always looking to pick up some lost revenue or, hidden revenue. Denial management. I know folks that are working on that application. Support prior authorization processes. Computer-assisted coding enhancements, electronic prior authorization tools that are there, not just the process, but some tools can be enabled within applications in order to facilitate that process. And then automated quality measures. Instead of having to calculate quality metrics, being able to use AI to automate that process might be helpful. Artificial intelligence tools for documentation and other non-clinical work in healthcare. So here's some operational tools that are non-clinical in nature, like traditional health information or health information management tasks, medical records, monitoring the AIs and human AI intervention with them. That all goes hand in glove. Looking at everything that comes out of the AI and having humans examine it, and also just ongoing monitoring of what the AI is doing, because as it learns more, it possibly can shift what it's doing. Records management functions. There's a lot that goes into that. If you're a records manager, you'll know what some of those functions are, and AI might help with that, especially since now everything's EHR, and there are a lot of ways to manage those records from a more macro sense. Medical record quality assurance, release information requests might be parsed through some AI, customer support, registration support, care management, care coordination, and also think that the 21st Century Cures Act is pushing just that, and it also has some AI transparency rules within it. So care management, care coordination, that's a target of AI for sure. Scheduling, review and audit of contracts, especially if you're using contracts to base payment upon and you want to try to wring out, again, every dollar, then there may be some use for AI in that process. Quality management automation. And one other note, just to say, you still have to authenticate data. You still have to sign orders, not just by the AI doing it. Human intervention is still required at various points of the process in order to create a more valid and accurate legal record. So don't forget about that. Labor force has to be trained, and in some cases you need to upskill your labor force to use the AI, but not in all. But certainly everyone needs to know the positives and the benefits of AI, and again, be cognizant that many people are fearful of it, and in order to be used effectively, you can't use it with fear. So it's all about education and training to get past any of that kind of anxiety. Artificial intelligence tools for documentation and other, this should say clinical work in healthcare. So clinical tools, autonomous coding, certified EHRs, that means certified electronic health records by the Office of National Coordinator, ONC, with decision support initiative, DSI, and other tools that can help make decisions. Medical imaging analysis, like we've said in the past, few slides, that diagnostic imaging and radiology is hot for AI. Drug discovery and development, personalized medicine, virtual health assistance, and then a little more on the decision support Interventions, DSI, in the context of the Electronic Code of Federal Regulations, Part 170, predictive decision support intervention, is defined as a technology that supports decision-making based algorithms or models, a technology supporting making decisions based on some technology. And the algorithms or models derive relationships from training data and produce outputs that result in predictions, classifications, recommendations, evaluations, or analysis. What the heck does that mean? Well, it means that you're training the system on data, maybe real data, other patients' data, maybe that patient's data, and then producing outputs that are predictive of some kind in nature or helping figure out what's going on with patients and diseases and all of that diagnosis. So that's what a predictive decision support intervention is, and that's very important. So if you have a physician that is making an order and AI is reviewing the context of that order with the rest of the patient's data and making suggestions or trying to get a diagnosis in place for a final diagnosis and wanting to consider all of the data, those are going to be predictive decision support interventions, or DSIs. That's going to be very important if you're doing governance, to understand that some AI is going to be predictive DSI, some AI that you use is not. It's going to be operational, administrative, other clinical, non-clinical, lots of different things it could be. So things that are not directly patient care, but that are clinical and administrative in nature, we haven't talked much about: computer-assisted coding and clinical documentation improvement. AI can help with that. Can it solve it and make humans irrelevant? I don't think so, but it can help. And because there's such a vast volume of things to be coded accurately and deeply if it's a complex case, and since CDI is an ongoing process that kind of never ends, those things can be assisted with AI. Disease surveillance and outbreak detections across large populations of data certainly can look for bumps in that, and maybe this system raise its hand and say we've got something going on, and have a human take a look at it. Clinical research and literature reviews, things like that. Lots of AI uses in there as well. AI governance. An AI governance summary is really squeezing a lot here into a couple of slides. So AI governance responsibilities include aligning organizational objectives and the missions of the organization with the AI initiatives it's undertaking. Integrate AI governance and compliance into the organization's governance and compliance programs. So you're going to take governance and expand what you already need to have. Plans and methods for guiding both human and AI technology, AI use, management, and maintenance. So can help develop plans and methods for guiding that. Ensure the responsible and ethical use of AI. And again, these are responsibility for AI governance to take on. Maintain AI for the highest degree of ongoing accuracy. AI development within your organization. AI development and use within your organization. AI and ongoing management of your AIs and updating those AIs, vendor management for AI, and compliance, privacy, and security monitoring. These are all responsibilities that AI governance needs to be aware of and to manage to the extent that it can. So see, there is a lot to do that you can understand in a non-technical manner. Governance administration means how are we going to administer our governance? Well, we're going to develop and implement AI initiative cataloging analysis, procurement process flows. So we're going to control the process of identifying AI to be used and either developing it or bringing it in and have dedicated processes for doing that. Because otherwise it can be the Wild West where you can have dozens and dozens of AI initiatives with clinicians possibly leading the charge in an uncoordinated manner. You need to be careful with that and get it under control, catalog what you have and have a process for considering new AIs and then bringing them along should you decide to pursue them. You want to manage your policy and procedure development and get your policy and procedure approvals. You want to provide education and training for all stakeholders, and you want to create comfort amongst the workforce and users of AI. You want to have reporting for compliance. There's NIST activities, National Institute of Standards and Technology. They have an AI assessment and they have remediation recommendations. Or you can use something like mine. I have AI assessment that is drawn from NIST, but other sources too. So reporting on assessing your risk is part of governance. Privacy compliance, especially in relation to AI, because it's a little bit different there, although it's still a lot of HIPAA. Regulatory security and cybersecurity compliance, that never stops and is the same for other areas, but there are some focal specifics within AI that you need to know for security and cybersecurity. Again, I work with folks that do that. I can manage privacy compliance and governance of AI, but the regulatory security and cybersecurity really needs experts. I know folks like that. Work with them. Cures Act HTI-1 transparency reporting or being in compliance with. Those is a law, the Cures Act HTI-1 rule that impacts AI for certified EHRs. And then also part of your administration of your governance program is AI monitoring, proactive and actual model performance degradation from input data changing. So what that means is that your AI functions differently because now it knows more, or perhaps it's made a couple of incorrect assumptions that didn't get changed. So it missed it and is thinking wrong. So you have to monitor it on a proactive basis. And there's other AI monitoring as well and measuring. There's a lot of that out there being considered. Much of it will be run by AIs, but has to be reviewed by humans. An AI governance program structure. Here's the structure of an AI governance program. You have an AI governance framework that you're going to use. That's what we just call a set of questions and specifics that you can have and work through. You want your objectives, your goals, your mission, all that goes in the framework. Your AI policy and procedures, whatever they are, that's part of your framework. Multidisciplinary AI governance committee, you must have a committee defined with multiple different disciplines. Not just governance people or compliance people, but also physicians, also security, also privacy, also data use type people. Data governance, data integrity, quality, privacy, security, data security, or cybersecurity, all of that is governing the data so that we don't have inaccurate data, that we have valid data. AI lifecycle management. So there's a whole life cycle to AI, right? You got to budget, procure, develop, implement. All of that has guidelines. AI lifecycle monitoring and maintenance to ensure accuracy, effectiveness, and compliance. And there's things like drift and semantic entropy that I'm not going to try to explain, but they do mean that as the AI runs, it might change its answers and output. We have to watch for that. There are ethical guidelines to put into a governance program: fairness and bias mitigation, transparency and explainability, ensure AI use is known and understood clearly and explained to stakeholders and the end users. And risk management, you have to assess your risk according to all areas you might have risk, and you then put a mitigation plans in place to shore up wherever you have larger risks, and including what happens if your AI fails. What are your contingencies? What are your risks that you have once you have a failure and are having to deal with it? And then there's other areas of risk to be discovered by our technology. And as we evolve and more widely use AI, we can't even say every area of risk now. It's too hard. But again, as far as a governance framework, it's all of these things. But we do have from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, some guidance on in specifications and standards on how some of this, the details work of this program that you're going to put in place. Elements of a successful AI compliance program include also regulatory compliance with legal and regulatory awareness. So you need to know what's going on with lawsuits and things like that, but also what regulations are coming down. You have to monitor and audit your AI systems for ongoing compliance. You have to make sure stakeholders get engaged and stay engaged, have internal education, training, and awareness of AI concepts, and use workforce members' feedback and understand whether they understand their role in the compliance and governance structure within your organization. You have external communications, so you're not just communicating and educating internally, but you may also be educating and having external communications. So regularly paced reports on AI governance activities, compliance statuses, and key performance indicators for review by senior management and the governance committee. That regular reporting is the same as any other area of compliance. You're going to do it here for AI. Continuous improvement, you got to have feedback loops and adaptation. That is required by our risk management standards from NIST and other areas. And innovation and best practices have to develop. So you're using AI in a certain manner, but there may be somebody discovers better ways to do it. So you want the feedback from the users, and then developing best practices for using your AIs in your organization. Governance has a role in all of that. Hard governing and compliance issues that will be long and evolving. So there's a couple of areas in AI in general and for healthcare in specific, they're going to take years to resolve. The work's only just beginning on them, but good to know that this is the state. Liability. What is the liability for different things in AI? Copyright infringement, harm, bias, unethical type behaviors from the AI. Who is responsible for that? Is there court type responsibilities that could be lawsuits or other remedies? So those liabilities are yet ill-defined, and as court cases come up and all, we'll figure that out. The intersection of privacy and AI, not just HIPAA. OCR addresses biases in AI with their non-discrimination rules. So we have Office for Civil Rights for HIPAA, but we also have Office for Civil Rights doing non-discrimination. And those rules are, at least at this point, also coming into play with AIs. So for now, governance is usually up to the organizations implementing the AI systems or their components. And really, a lot of organizations haven't had time to dive into the compliance angle. The regulations are not caught up yet. There's not much fear in the industry for covered entities or business associates of enforcement other than what HIPAA might do, or the Office of the National Coordinator, ONC, or what the Federal Trade Commission might get into, although they typically don't do a huge number of cases. But those agencies do have some active rules, but still, Most folks are not aware of a lot of rules for AIs, and certainly it's not generating a lot of fear that enforcement might later engender. New laws, more enforcement for AI developers and their users that offer AI as a service. Really, we're going to see a lot more of that as we go in the future. So, users, service providers of AI expect more laws and regulations as we go forward. AI and privacy compliance, HIPAA, and more. Microsoft Copilot, just so you know, they'll sign a business associate agreement. That's significant. You have to get to a certain license level, pay, enough per month. But I, for example, have Copilot Pro on my machine here, and they will sign a business associate agreement for that. That's kind of the acid test for, are they HIPAA compliant? HIPAA privacy guides, AI privacy in the US. HIPAA is the most important privacy rule in healthcare right now. We don't know exactly how that's going to express itself in the future. We've had privacy for a long time, but things can change. But I don't know if they will. But HIPAA privacy is one of the most important regulations that require compliance for managing U.S. patient covered entities, providers of care, payers, and business associates. There are other privacy regulations, such as for state law, that may also impact. So, it's not just HIPAA. Training and operating AI and their large language models require huge amounts of data that will include personal information. Who and how that works for privacy is tough to parse out at this point. Excuse me. In the U.S. healthcare environment, personal information will include protected health information under HIPAA. HIPAA applies to the use of PHI or protected health information. You may have multiple laws covering the PHI that you may want to use with your AI. What is deemed use of PHI is almost endless and much open to discovery, but will continue to evolve. So we don't even know all the questions about how to use protected health information in the context of AI. But you have to just know situational awareness and define the use of your information in particular situations for particular AIs. Again, in US, it's identifiable patient information. If you de-identify it, then you can use the information. HIPAA applies just like other media and system-based PHI for fundraising, marketing, research, law enforcement, public interest. So HIPAA applies in many areas. AI is just one of them. Authorizations are still going to be required by HIPAA. And now it is, how do you get around having authorized use of the information within your AIs? That's a good question for your legal counsel. How do you get authorizations for using real data to train your AIs? So you're going to have to think out of the box to find the extensive data required for AI training. And does the PHI need to be identified? Could it be offshore data without HIPAA protection? Again, HIPAA privacy guides AI privacy in the US. Some more items for AI HIPAA compliance. Linking of your organizational HIPAA compliance governance with AI procurement, development, implementation, and operation. For thinking about bringing it in, getting it in place, developing it if you have to, and then ongoing operations. Put all that into your existing HIPAA governance program. But it's got to be specific to the AI for certain policies and procedures. Train the workforce on your AI and HIPAA. How do they work together? Make sure that training is performed for privacy and security. Implement guidance such as codes of conduct and attainable activities the workforce may or may not engage in while they're working with privacy and security of PHI and AI in mind. Implement applicable policies, procedures, monitors, and controls. Update business associate agreements. Vendor contracts have to account for all PHI uses in their master agreements. Update your notice of privacy practices for your AI use. You're going to have to perform risk assessments. These are not any different than the security risk analysis that is required and the privacy risk analysis that is not directly required but is indirectly required to make sure you're doing everything for privacy compliance you need to. Well, now for AI, you need to do a risk assessment as well for your AI. It will include privacy, security, and some cybersecurity too. But you've got to do that specific risk assessment. We offer that at McClendon IP, should you need it. And again, the NIST standards are very much what that is based upon now, but there are other laws and regulations and different frameworks we can use besides NIST. And then transparently disclose easily understandable information about the use and disclosure of PHI in the AI environment. You've got to make it easy and transparent for people not to be afraid of your AI systems, to want to allow you to use them because they perceive that they will be of benefit. And that's what we want. So be careful that as you write any materials that are patient or customer facing, that you're being as transparent as you can and disclosing as much as you can and making the process as simple and clear as possible, because remember, it is a fearful, complex topic, and we want to put out materials that will help dispel that discomfort. And I want to thank you for attending this part 2 of our overview of foundations and trends in AI governance. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on email at kmcclendonip@outlook.com or also www.mcclendonip.org. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the third of 3 parts to this series.